Hi everyone, I'm Mas from YLTI. Last month, I received an email from a gentleman said if I had any ideas about a project for absolute beginners for his workshop. Though it ended up as nothing, I anyway came up with an idea to make a plant stand, so I'll share the project this time. In addition to it, I also made another plant stand that's a little bit more complicated. Hopefully, this video will inspire a new person to start woodworking. Anyways, I'll only use this crosscut saw, drill driver, drill bits and these marking tools. I really didn't use anything other than them except the sanding paper, so if you have them, you can do this project. This is 1x8 construction lumber I got from the Home Depot. I chose a board that didn't have many knots and is relatively straight. When you cut the board, please cut on the marked line. There is a way that you purposely leave the line or cut off the line, but it's easier to cut straight when it's on the line. Okay, now marking. I chose the original board width to be the height of the stand, so your cutting accuracy in the previous process won't affect the height much. Of course, the board width of the construction lumber isn't that accurate, but they are similar enough for this project. And for the marking of the half-lap joint, I marked the cutout lines considering the thickness of the saw blade, so I can cut on the lines. If you are confident enough to cut inside the lines nicely, you don't have to consider the blade width, but like I said, cutting on the line is much easier. Here I cut off the outer corners and I'm about to work on the cutout. First, I drill the hole to remove the end of the cutout, so I don't have to use a chisel to do so. This hole diameter is a little bit bigger than the board width, but it's okay. Okay, so I'm cutting on the line. When I cut the board from the near to far side, it's easy to cut the board perpendicular to the surface, but it's difficult to cut it straight. So I usually make a shallow cut on the surface of the board, and it will guide my saw to cut it straight. Now I'm doing it on the other piece. Don't worry if the cut isn't as clean as mine. I'm actually messing it up too. And I will show you how you can fix the cutout width. Then I cut over the corners. This improves the stability of the base. I also cut all corners of the top board for the look, but please keep the corner pieces from the top board. Okay, it's time to fix the fit of the cutout. Yep, one side was too tight, so I had to sand it, but there is a thing. Sanding an end grain to widen the cutout isn't efficient, so please sand the face grain of the other board to make it thinner. It's soft wood, so it's easy especially when you use a sanding block, or like me, I put the piece of scrap wood behind the sanding paper. As long as glue can hold them together, I can see a gap, but this isn't fine furniture, so it's okay. If you really want to make a tight joint, that means you will be into woodworking, and possibly I'll have another woodworking friend. Well, unless you don't want to. Anyways, let's move on. I made holes on the top board where I put dowels and then sand all the pieces to round the edges. This prevents wood fibers to break when using it. I also roughly sand all the pieces with the same sanding paper with the grain to clean up the surface. For reference, I just used 120 grit. It's easy to sand before the glue up. It's almost there and now it's glue up time. I just glued the base pieces and glue it on the top board. Please be sure the holes on the top board will be in the middle of the baseboard. I also glued the cut-off pieces to reinforce the top board and let it dry for a few hours. Once the glue is almost dried, I drew the baseboard from the holes on the top board and put dowels and it's down for the day until the glue is fully dried. Okay, I knew if this project is just like this, my friends may think I stopped making an effort. So I made another plant stand with the leftover material. If you are an absolute beginner, you can think this is what you can expect to make if you play with wood after 3 years. I'm not really explaining the process in this video, but you can think about it like I just improved the quality of the fabrication by using chisels and planes after cutting it with a saw. Sometimes people say they have no time to do it with hand tools, but for this small project that you don't need to make a quantity, I think hand tool is quicker and less opportunity to mess up. If you are interested in woodworking, I recommend you to get the reasonable chisel set and the block plane. And I think what the important thing is, whatever the method is, learning how to sharpen them. Then, as needed basis, you can add or upgrade other tools once you know what you want from the tool. Almost all tools I have are on the list on my website, and you can tell I'm pretty cheapo. Anyways, I chamfered all the pieces after this and cleaned up the surface by a hand plane. And now, let's go back to the original project. This is the next day and the glue is fully dried. If you have a flash trim saw, you can use it, but I just use the cardboard to protect the top board. And now I sand them to flat with 120 grit and finishing all the surface with 220 grit. Finally, I put oil to finish. If you use a linseed oil-based finish, please be sure to dry the clothes before throwing it to a trash can as it can spontaneously combust. And here are the final products. If you notice, I made the base in the different grain orientation. For this size, the grain direction doesn't really matter, but if it's taller, it's good to go vertical. Well, at first, when I started woodworking, I really had no idea about these grain things, and they were intimidating, like I was worrying if I'm doing it wrong. But the fact is, though I still don't know much about it, I learn them little by little as I go. So what I want to say is, just start woodworking if you watch this video until now. And I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I would be happy if you liked the video and happier if you subscribe to this channel. If you have any suggestion to my video, it's also welcome. See you!